Hey, what up, everybody? We're going to be talking to Anthony Mantha. We're going to wrap up Tyler Bertuzzi's arbitration conversation. We're going to talk about NHL 21. All right, and we've got, Helene St. James came out with some lineups. So let's rip those into tiny little bits. So hang on for a bit. Now, of course, if you're a Red Wings fan and you're listening to this podcast, you know what other team you're probably a huge fan of? The Pittsburgh Penguins, right? No. All right. But anyway, these boys are part of the Hockey Podcast Network. If any part of you wants to listen and hear what's going on with the boys that love Sidney Crosby, God help them. But what you want to do is head on over to Tip the Iceberg. But here they are talking about themselves. We'll be right back. We'll get the show started.
Hello, hockey fans. My name is Nick Berlansky, host of the Tip of the Iceberg podcast here on the Hockey Podcast Network. My co-host Nick Horwat and I talk all things Pittsburgh Penguins, from top news to game analysis and other unconventional hockey talk. We've got you covered.
A team in the playoffs or the play-in round won the first overall pick, and I wanted to throw my phone clear across this plane.
Nope, he will.
Yeah, see, there's your hot take. Got it.
That's my hot take. He will be a Hockey Hall of Famer, if not possibly first ballot Hall of Famer. That was just awful officiating. And who was this scrub that was officiating? Let me look it up real quick. Mark Rashe, something like that. Oh, Recchi.
I just wanted to see him booming it from blue line to blue line, being the lines. That's all I wanted to see.
Very few general managers have those type of players, let alone 3 players that you can easily say, if I don't trade them, my team will be better. So all I have to do is not make a move. And I get that's a foreign concept for Jim Rutherford, but you just don't do it. Don't do it.
You don't do that.
New episodes every Monday. Tune in at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcast from. And let's go Pens.
Excuse me. Sorry. No, go Penguins. Uh-oh. Mike, you okay?
No. Man, it's November 1st. We're 2 days away from November 3rd. Sometimes you got to go on the other side of the aisle. And,
Oh, Mike. Oh, keep it together. You can do it. Oh, Jesus, here it comes. All right, he's good. All right, thanks for your patience, Red Wings fans. We know the last thing you want to do on a Sunday morning is take a look at the Pittsburgh Penguins colors and logo.
Brunch. It's awful.
Yeah, they are like the one team. Here's our banter, right? Not a part of the notes. They are like the one team. I think the Red Wings can. I mean, we legitimately hate them. But think about the rest of the NHL. Like when we're talking to the Hockey Podcast Network and I bring up something sad about the Red Wings, like nobody feels sympathy for us because we had so much success for so long. But I feel like the Penguins are like that one team, probably Chicago too. But we can like legitimately hate them and everybody else hates them too. Like that's the only thing I think we still have in common. When it comes to like winners, because you could talk about like the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they don't win. All right, so
well, I think we hold on to that grudge, even though it was 12 years ago, when my beloved Marian Hossa pulled a Judas on us and went, on the other side, but
over to Chicago, right?
Well, I mean, we got to play him. He was in Pittsburgh,
right? We beat him in Pittsburgh. Then he loses with us. Then he heads on over to Chicago. So it was him trying to find that Stanley Cup, and he just kept making bonehead decision after bonehead decision. But then he nailed it because then he signed a long term with Chicago and won. He got it all. He got everything he wanted.
He joined our team and helped Pittsburgh win a cup.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I thought he did do pretty good.
We're doing
though.
fine.
If that was part of the plan, like he's like, I'm gonna get you guys to stand. That was a hell of a season. Like if you go back and take a look at those numbers,
Like, he did one of those, like you get stabbed in the back, but it's not because he was behind us. It's because he gave us a hug and was holding a blade. Oh! So
it's one of those things too, like going back and looking at Pavel Datsyuk's numbers around those years and seeing how amazing he was with Marian Hossa with all those possession statistics. The turnovers were always there, the takeaways.
Yeah.
For Pavel,
we should start doing a shot every time you bring up Pavel. Man, it's over. And I'm sure there's no way you're going to bring him up again in this episode.
Oh, we might as well transition right into that, huh? Mike, that'll be our first segment. We'll break the order here. Breaking news, Mike. Lucas Raymond was kidnapped by the Russian mafia and replaced with Mr. Pavel Datsyuk. I don't know if you had the pleasure of watching it, Mike, but we're going to take a look here, just as the evidence that'll be shown in court. But watch Lucas there. Boom.
Wow.
Oh, it's a beaut. Honestly, this is something that when you're trying to find the excitement, and I apologize for everybody who's listening to the podcast, but what you're watching is a Datsyuk level takeaway and just an amazing finish from Lucas. I think we've got another angle as I scroll down here, and this is from Here's Your Replay, which I think if you're a hardcore hockey fan, you're following at Here's Your Replay, so we're not necessarily plugging anything.
I know it might sound tongue in cheek what Matt's saying that poor Lucas was abducted, but clearly this is not the work of a teenager. This is a grown man Hall of Famer move. As soon as you see the highlight, I think he'll easily agree with what Matt's asserting here.
Yeah, it really is. Like you
finesse,
need to find those.
It's defensive awareness, it's skill, and then it's a puck in a net. Matt, that's a Hall of Fame move right there. Welcome back.
Hand-eye coordination, and how about the time that you have to turn around and set up that move? Again, if you haven't seen it, it is just that amazing, and that short of a clip too. I mean, it's a 2-second GIF of seeing a takeaway, a turnaround, control the puck, look up at the goaltender, spot the puck in the right, in the open part of the net. I mean, all of that happens in 2 seconds. It's fantastic. Something that we need as Red Wings fans to get excited about. So we can cross that one off the list. That's a good.
I just it feels like it's kind of been a little while since Ken Daniels has really had a real reason to say what a Datsyukian dig that was. So hopefully with Lucas, his abduction, we'll be able to start saying that again during hockey games. But Matt, we got some more Tyler Bertuzzi talk here from our last episode. We guessed, we hypothesized, and other synonyms about what kind of money he would make. And Matt's been decided. His money's coming in. Did he get enough?
Okay, that's a tough question.
He was our top goal scorer last year, man.
Now, we talked last week about the number that Yzerman came in with, and then that was the move that kind of decided this whole that was the move that was this is still the Yzerplan. There's no loyalty. I mean, I shouldn't say no loyalty, but he's really looking out for this team first. And then we got the decision on Monday from the arbitrator. Maybe that was Tuesday. I can't remember now. Anyways, so we got the decision early in the week, and it actually came under what we guessed, which would be 3.7, which would be the midpoint. See a lot of these arbitrations that actually go there end up at that point. And Tyler came underneath that. And one of the things that popped in my head was, shoot, and we were talking about this over the summer. I mean, if you're talking about a guy I highly respect in Prashant Iyer, you had the free press, the projections were 4.5 to 5 million, and this was going to be something long term. And you saw those numbers, and you're like, Jesus. I mean, he's good, but come on. So there's two ways to look at this, Mike, and it's either, goddamn, did Steve Yzerman do an amazing job with this, and the Yzerplan is those wheels are greased up and running, and you're gonna have you're gonna continue to get that flexibility, or you look at it and go, man. That super sucks for Tyler Bertuzzi, which I think now is a good time To just real quick before I share some of the statistics, we've got two pieces here from Red Wings Rant and the Brothers of Discussion that we'd like everybody to check out. And let me share another screen here. Mike, can you see that website?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the bodpodcast.com, brothersofdiscussion.com. Real quick, everyone, if you haven't checked it out, you can go to our shop. And it's just from bodpodcast.com, from the homepage. Click on the shop page. And you do have your Red Wings Rant t-shirt, your Red Wings Rant mug. You've got your sweatshirt. I just want to make sure everybody knew that was there. But we're actually going to go into the Red Wings Rant page, and I want you guys to see Jesse L. I love that, Jesse, you put your last initial as your name for the article. But find Jesse at JCLEIST17 on Twitter. Jesse's going over Bertuzzi's worth. And Mike, who's Jesse? Well, if you're following and a part of the conversation online on Twitter for the Red Wings, you're going to see Jesse popping up everywhere. But he's somebody that I've actually had a lot of conversations about the Detroit Red Wings. We just straight up DM and start talking. And he was happy to come aboard. And this first article, I think you absolutely have to check out. But yeah, you can go over to bodpodcast.com/Red Wings Rant. And you're going to see all of our new blogs popping up there. We actually have another one going up that'll be a link to our YouTube page with some explanation of what's going on, because it's a pretty complicated model, Mike. But check out Jesse's article. He's kind of in agreement with us with Bertuzzi. Definitely could have gotten paid more. And here we're going to go over the first bit of my calculations that went up to show that. So this is a lot, Mike, and this is why I made a YouTube video to kind of go over what's going on. So look, I want you to know that I did some work here. I don't want you to look at this and go, holy shit, we're about to talk all these numbers, we're going to go top to bottom. No, we're not. Ultimately, we're coming down to like some simple calculations, some simple conclusions come off of a lot of complicated calculations. But I found, a list of players that I deemed to be comparable to Tyler Bertuzzi by looking at size, position, individual expected goals, and points per 60. Developed this model to take a look at what they're getting paid. We have old and new contracts mixed in, so you can take into consideration the COVID situation. You can take into consideration, expansion drafts or whatever you want, whatever's going on with these salaries, and then plug that all in to just get as many pieces as we can to figure out where Bertuzzi should have fallen. And I think this is a little bit easier to digest. It's the dollar per point. And now that line you can see, Mike, going across all of those bars, that would be the average dollar per point, the dollar spend per point for these comparable players to Tyler Bertuzzi. Now, is Tyler Bertuzzi coming in and only bringing in points? No, he brings in so much. But we are trying to figure out, like, the world of NHL analytics is still trying to figure out the best way to dissect defense. So what we're doing right now is since these guys are comparable from an expected goals perspective, and again, there's so much of this, you have to watch the entire YouTube video on the Brothers of Discussion page to make sure you don't miss anything. But with all these comparable players coming into play, you can see how far Tyler Bertuzzi is beneath the average, and so many guys like Andrei Burakovsky, Brandon Saad, Jason Zucker, Christian Dvorak. And it just, to me, there are so many guys that you probably could have interchanged in that graph and put in there as like, here's another comparable player. But ultimately what it comes down to is, and I'm going to pull this up again just so I can read the number. The average salary in millions for these guys that had comparable points per 60 and a comparable expected goals number came in at that 4.3 number. So you could just sit there and go, all right, Bertuzzi got paid $3.5 million. The average for those guys was $4.34 million. Quite a bit, I would say, to come under, especially when the middle point between the two numbers that Bertuzzi was thrown out there and Yzerman gave to Bertuzzi would have been 3.7. And of course, I just thought it would end up in that spot, and it obviously didn't. It came underneath that. My thing is, how did they not produce enough information for the arbitration to end at the midpoint? Like, I don't understand that, because that seems like the easiest thing in the world to do, is just to take those two numbers and say, you know what, Yzerman's coming in pretty low. Bertuzzi, even his own ask came under that 4.34 million of those comparable players. So again, I could have picked a player that has a smaller salary and that number changes, but that's where I just kept trying to plug in more and more players into that model to find a better average. And it's just, you know, he really did get dogged on this one. That's my conclusion with all these numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only kind of dangerous thing here with Yzerman, because we don't have a lot of Lafrenières coming up through the pipelines. So I mean, if we can see Bertuzzi, looks like it's going to be at least, you know, for this franchise's next, you know, 4 to 5 years, somebody who's ready to like start hitting their prime here in the next, you know, year or two.
Yeah,
you know,
right there.
At the age of 25, you know, you're going to start hitting it, you know, 26, 27, 28, 29. Those are like your prime NHL years. The only thing that could maybe give you a little bit pause is if, you know, they came in a little bit low, you know, and then he's kind of like, wow, you know, that's kind of where you see me. I led your garbage team in goals, and that's kind of where you value me, huh? You know, that's the side of it that I kind of look at is, you know, now he's definitely going to be making less than Darren Helm, and obviously we can't punish, you know, or judge Yzerman for contracts he didn't sign. But it's just, you know, if Tyler's, I'm pretty sure he has access to the internet and he can fire up the cap friendly, and you know, to see that he's still, you know, not going to be, you know, one of the top paid forwards on this team when he's clearly one of the best forwards on the team. It's just something I think for him to think about. Because you know, this is the Red Wings. One thing they've been historically very consistent at is, you know, paying you for what you did in the past instead of what you're going to be doing in the future. So I think that this Bertuzzi contract is yet another example of them. Well, I mean, you only got like 20 goals. Yeah, but I'm 25. I'm going to be hitting my prime here. These are my years. I'm going to be doing it, baby. We're going to give you 3.5.
Do you think that could be one of the? Are we going to see a transition at some point with these players where, like, Mantha, let's say Mantha does get another short-term contract, or Bertuzzi, maybe he's another all-star for this upcoming season. You know, whether or not it's just he actually plays in an all-star game, or he's just, right, he's just called an all-star. But if that happens again, is with all these players talking to Steve Yzerman, like, we go back to the free agency period, and they kept saying, I'm here because of Steve Yzerman. Like, I trust what this guy says. Is part of the conversation Steve is having with these guys, like, look, I don't see it, or I haven't seen enough, but I'm willing to pay you if you can prove yourself. And are we gonna see the contracts that start to hurt us if we find that success? Like, Steve, we have nothing. There's nothing for us to go by so far with the Red Wings to say that there's, you know, there's like a precedent for us to point to. But maybe to your point of there being an issue of not paying the guys that have had some success, or at least paying them up to this par that statistically proved that there was room for Bertuzzi to get paid more.
Yeah.
If they don't see that contract in the future, where you're making the point right now, could be at the point where they've passed their prime and they start that decline, are we going to be paying guys more at that point? Or is Yzerman going to set the precedent of like, no, man, I wasn't going to pay you before. I'm certainly not going to pay you now. So like if I'm playing NHL 21, that's how I handle it. But we've also got all these guys coming in through free agency saying, I trust the words that Yzerman was throwing to me. So I know, you know, we're getting outside of numbers. We're getting outside of like that hardcore analysis of like what's going on the ice. And we're stepping into like psychology and philosophy and what's going on behind the eyes of Yzerman. So that big old brain of his. What do you? I don't know. Can we even answer that, or is this just us going? All right, we have to keep track of this because at some point somebody has to get paid on this team. And
yeah, that might be the other piece of this too. Is the Red Wings cap situation is so wide open right now. Not just for the future, but like for today. With that signing, it's basically what are we left with? We got to sign Mantha, and maybe I guess Timashov. That's not going to be a huge deal. So even if you gave Mantha $15 million, you'd still have almost a minimum to sign somebody else. So it just kind of feels like
right up to the max, right?
Let's give him an NBA level super max. Give him...
Here's a fun game. I know we're gonna jump into be the GM later. What if you told Anthony Mantha, like, I'm gonna give you 1 year, we're gonna extend the cap, you're gonna get everything that's left. Just trust me. Like, we're gonna pay. Well, you know what? Why don't NHL teams do that? Why don't you say to Mantha, I'm gonna give you a 1 year contract for $15 million, but you have to promise as we move forward and we start to build this team, you're going to sign for $1 million a year. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Like, if we walk into the season, like Yzerman's he's talking to Mantha right now. Look, I'm not going to sign yet. I'm going to see if I can get some trades in the works here. And then you're going to get $12 million just for this year. But I want you to handshake agreement right now. When we move forward, you're going to be at a much more reasonable salary, and we can build this team into a Stanley Cup champion. Why isn't that a thing?
Like the Red Wings breaking news with a good faith $15 million 1 year contract. It's a good faith deal.
And then Mantha walks the next year.
He sits out the season.
Right.
That quad's really aching me, Coach. Oh. That'd be another scratch tonight.
Honestly, I feel like a genius right now. Somebody comment and tell me why that wouldn't work. But I think that deal works for me.
I think it's part of this is that it's the Red Wings right now. If we're like Tampa, you're biting your fingernails off trying to figure out how you still fit all these guys on one team without having to get rid of a single person. And you're like, fuck, we lost an arbitration. We did 3-5 instead of 3-4. Now we got to trade Stamkos. But the Red Wings, like, whatever, man. We got tons of space. Whatever. Just put a number out there, Anthony. We'll see.
Could you imagine, like, all the hell that would break loose, too? Like, if this really was, like, Yzerman playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. So he makes that move, not just to help out the Red Wings moving forward. Again, I know we're being silly, but this is such a great idea. But he also does it to, like, set the standard contract for forwards. So other guys that are going to be looking for money are going to be like, Anthony Mantha got paid $15 million, but, like, in-house, Yzerman's going to be like, we know what's going on. We're not paying anybody $15 million again. But the rest of the league is like, oh shit, Anthony Mantha got paid $15 million. I got to shell out for my, my lower elite top line forward.
Like it's kind of like remember beloved Ben Wallace on the Pistons, and the Pistons let him walk because he wanted 4 years, $60 million. And he was already like 32, 33. He only played one side of the ball. Started getting injured, and then all of a sudden, all these players are like, you know what? Ben Wallace, I want that Ben Wallace money. So I think, if we could set a precedent where it's like, you know what, I want that Mantha money, and then we kind of reset the landscape completely, and then everybody's kind of going to the negotiation table. I want one of those 1 year, $15 million max deals. Give me one of those. Suddenly, all these opportunities come Yzerman's way as teams have to start dumping off superstars to enjoy the 1 year luxury life of being a Detroit Red Wing. Might be really fun. We'll just have a 1 year hired assassins. The greatest players in the league will come here and get 1 year, $15 million deals.
I love this plan. I think I hope Yzerman's listening right now because we're going to be a hell of a lot better moving forward if we can get this to work.
The Red Wings completely reset the market for the next 50 years of National Hockey League management.
They can reset every sport that has this, I mean, change football and change basketball forever. Just 1 year contracts where these guys get paid and then handshake deals moving forward. All right. I think we'll wrap up the Bertuzzi conversation by saying, it does work out fantastically for the Red Wings right now. I think we've brought up some questions as to like eventually, like if these conversations are, if you play well, you're going to get paid. You can't just keep tricking Bertuzzi into like, all right, you still haven't proved yourself. And he's like, I got 80 points this year. What are you talking about? So eventually somebody's going to get paid. That's where the trouble could come into play. But I think right now, Mike, if you and I had to sit here and play the game of like, do we think that's going to happen? No. So I think we're okay. So ultimately, Yzerman did the move that we would have. I think I'll sum it up this way. I think we all kind of have this idea of what Bertuzzi is. And Yzerman gave him the contract that makes sense for what that player is, because we know he's not the game changer elite guy. He definitely serves a fantastic purpose on a team. But you know what? We've talked about it ourselves. Like you're also paying a guy for the value he's bringing, like selling jerseys and stuff. So that 3.5 is great for the Red Wings. Just, kind of sucks for the twos. All right. Our first thing that we skipped, Mike, I just wanted to bring up, maybe get a hot take. But there it is. Mike, if there was a captain of the Russian Five who celebrated their anniversary of hitting the ice for the first time this past week, I asked Hockey Twitter, I asked the Hockey Podcast Network, and we got a huge result for the winner. Pretty much 90%, and then not so much for everybody else. Mike, you want to put in your guess as to who would be the captain of the Russian Five if there was a captain? So let's say individual 5-guy lines needed a captain. I know it's crazy.
I'm a little concerned because I know there's a lot of Red Wings faithful who are very butthurt about Sergei Fedorov wanting to make that dollar bill. But he's a Hall of Famer. There, I said it. So I'm going to pick him as my captain because I'm going to pick the best players who lead by example and put pucks in nets. If you want to do a PR move and put Konstantinov or Fatizov in there, be my guest. Larionov, I don't know if he contributed enough to be my captain. I'm going to say I would have picked Sergei, but I have a feeling the people picked Larionov.
They absolutely did. They picked Larionov.
I knew it. God.
That was my pick too. I kind of put it in there, and I wish that I had flipped up and done Larionov as the retweet, because then then you get more coverage. Do Larionov as the retweet, because I thought, I thought I would play the Red Wings Twitter fans into the whole retire 91 side of things, and maybe they'd retweet Fedorov just to get him more accolades. But that didn't work. All right. Igor gets the win there.
LeBron James taught us nothing. Make that money, son. Make that money. It doesn't matter. He was scoring goals for you like he wanted to make that money. So, thank you, Sergei, for, getting pucks in the net. Larionov, you only got assists because you had Sergei on your line. Sorry, I said it. All right, he wasn't dinging him off Fatizov's stick. Come on, let's be real, people.
Well, there's two ways to increase your wallet, right? You got to make that money. You got to be Sergei Fedorov, or you can save money by using the promo code. Use the promo code THPN at manscaped.com to get your Lawnmower 3.0. That's right. We're here to talk about the Lawnmower 3.0 again. Mike, that thing now has a very nice spot in Matt's bathroom. Some easy access, I think, is the best way to put it. I now that I've started, I can't stop. It's almost like an addiction. I like the result is a clean finish, right? But you also like what it does for you from I don't know if I want to say ego, maybe just confidence wise. I'm definitely not in the realm of ego yet. It's not that great, but confidence wise, you kind of like what happens there. So now I am addicted to using the Lawnmower 3.0. I like how I'm dancing around what's actually going on.
Which side are you coming from then? If you're not at the ego, are you more of the super ego, or are you still id like, oh, dick now bald? Where are you coming from over there, man?
It looks grander. Is the idea here?
Super ego it is. I'm coming from the id side, so we got it sandwiched there for it. There you go, you Hitchcock fans out there with Halloween just recently ended.
So if you want to look more grand, head on over to manscaped.com and you can use promo code THPN to get 20% off and free shipping for your Lawnmower 3.0 package. Mike, I think it's got the 7,000 RPM motor. Like I said, you're avoiding those nicks and scrapes as well on your cojones. So I mean, it's a win-win-win-win for you and your cojones. So that's manscaped.com. Promo code THPN. All right. Moving on.
Improve those consensual dick pics. Matt, let's move on.
Right.
Where
are we? Oh boy. This is all right.
Yeah. Well, we got 2 items left. One is some rumblings and grumblings about NHL 21. And then people eviscerated poor Helene St. James for daring to think outside the box a little bit with her projections on the Red Wings lineup for the coming season. I think it's worth reading those out here. Matt, do you have a graphic ready for us? If not, I'm happy to read.
Go ahead and read them. We'll pretend everybody's on the podcast now.
I think this might be the one where there's some molars being ground into dust. The first line, which was Anthony Mantha. Well, I can see that. Centered by Robbie Fabry. Well, that might happen on some nights. Valtteri Filppula. So we're going to talk about defending that one in a second here. Line 2 was centered by Dylan Larkin. Left and right wings, you had Bobby Ryan in the twos. The new $3.5 million man. Line number 3, Nemesnikov. Philip Zadina and Glenn Dunning bringing up the wings on that one. And then on the 4th line, there's a lot of hot potatoing here. She wrote in 4 people, so I don't know how that's going to work. That's like, Mighty Ducks 2 movie. But we had our boy Earn that money. Darren Helm, Franz Nielsen, Sam Gagne. In some capacity, those goofs will be in there. Maybe Svechnikov will kind of squeak in. And then we had the defensive pairings, Matt. Do you want to wait for those? And let's handle the forwards first.
Oh, it's Mark Stahl, Philip Peronic, Patrick Nemeth, and Troy Stetcher, Danny DeKaiser, and John Merrill, and then our backstoppers, Jonathan Bernier, where if you ask around the NHL, a lot of people are putting Grice as the starting goaltender.
No. I'm not benching the MVP of the Red Wings 2020 season. There's no way I'm doing that. Those people are bananas. But Matt, let's kind of get into the first line here. This is the one where people are like, oh, blah, 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 blah. So Mantha, no question. Fabry and then Filppula. What was?
Here's my hot take.
Yeah, where does that come from?
Helene, I really hope she'll come on the podcast one day. But what this reads to me is that she's looking at this like if you were playing with the 2002 Red Wings, right? If you had some guy that wasn't performing up to standard, like what you needed, you could just move around players. I mean, you've got Brett Hull, Sergei Fedorov, Luc Robitaille. You could slot almost any successful player on that team into any one of those lines and help elevate that line. We can't afford to play that game with this team. All right. I don't know if we could be completely sold on Robbie Fabry. I know Valtteri Filppula is not the guy you want to throw on your first line. Could you imagine us touring the league and when they announce the starting lineups, they're going to have to say Valtteri Filppula. And the only thing I can imagine that benefits us if he's on our first line is the gut-busting laughter that the other team, like uncontrollable rolling on the ice when they hear that. And we'd score, like probably on that first drop of the puck. But what do you do when they stop laughing? What do you do when the gut-busting laughter stops? You get destroyed.
Let me try to come to Helene's aid here, because I think that one line I really like a lot that she put together, because she did comment and say, we know that there's magic with Larkin, Mantha, and the twos.
Right.
But if you can kind of spread the wealth a little bit, let's kind of see if we can have more than one line putting pucks in nets. So one thing I really do like that she did was Larkin with Bertuzzi and Bobby Ryan, because if we're not going to keep Bobby Ryan, a 33-year-old guy, he's going to be able to get a lot of points playing with Larkin and Bertuzzi. So as far as like trying to pad out his stats to see if we can swap him for a draft pick, or my God, maybe we'll be, competitive enough to be watchable on some nights. If that's one combination, I think that works for all parties involved. So I really like that move. So the one spot where I would probably make a switch is with Nemesnikov being on the third line, because the way that, comparably watching him, against Filppula, and then if you're going to talk about having a more well-rounded game, as much as we love Robbie, he only plays one side of the ice. And I think ideally I would want, Mantha to have a guy who's going to be able to show a little bit more diversity out there, as far as what kind of skills he brings to the table. So that would maybe be a one flip I would try to do. Maybe just put Valtteri on the third line and put Nemesnikov in some capacity on the wing or centering for Mantha. But I think that's maybe one tweak, and then a lot of the grumbling would go away. It was just Vladislav moving up.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that, because when Nemesnikov first got picked up, we put out our video on our YouTube page of taking a look at his stats, and he ends up being number 2 on a lot of our like advanced metrics, the advanced analytics for tracking the shots on ice, tracking possession, expected goals. If you're tracking from the defensive side, he ends up being one of the top forwards in hits delivered. And he, it's one of those things positionally, like he ends up not being number 1 for everything, but he's doing such a great job on both ends of the ice that he's elevating himself and whatever line he's on, because he is that. I don't want to use grinder, because I think he's more than that, and that's why I was so excited when we did pick him up. But I love what you're saying and switching the Fabry and Nemesnikov. I think that makes a lot of sense. You might even switch Filppula for Nemesnikov and just put Nemesnikov at center. I think that makes a lot of sense. But I know Steve said he does want to put Fabry at center, so a lot of people, when they're putting their line projections, are like, all right, Fabry center. But Either way, I like that switch. Whoever you're taking out on that first line.
Yeah, I mean, I would put Nemesnikov in for Filppula, if only because I want somebody to offset what Robbie thinks is defense. So if we have a kind of a more defensive forward, we have a offensive-minded forward, and then you have Mantha, who's just a beast, I think that's going to be a pretty formidable line. I like what they can, kind of triangulate together on the ice. So I think that would really make the top 2 lines, respectable, where it's, not a historically awful NHL, team.
Mike, I'm going to say this. My hot take on your hot take, that is your best hot take since the show has started. I've never been more proud to call you my podcast partner here on Red Wings Rant. But Mike, we've got more hot takes, because you said we only had 2 segments left, but you forgot our brand new segment of Be the GM. Woo!
We lost
there it is.
We're back. All right.
I was scared to hit the video to stop it, only to have it restart again. So I was like, "Uh-oh, what should I do here?" Okay.
The song's just a shade long. Like And you don't want another shade too long. But man, you had a really good question for the people online. Yeah.
Yeah, we've only seen, and if you guys want to participate in these, just go to @BOD Hockey and give us a follow. We're going to be putting these out once a week. Last week we played 2 different Be the GMs, but this week we stuck with how we want to go moving forward. But Mike just had such a juicy question we couldn't skip it. So be prepared for 1 per week. And this was about Anthony Mantha. We've brought up Anthony Mantha and his contract so many different times, so it only made sense to me to talk about it to all the Twitter folks. We've only seen short-term contracts with Stevie Y. Does the trend continue with Anthony Mantha? How many years are you signing Mantha for? So the actual question you're answering in this poll is how many years are you signing Mantha for, which pretty much brings you back to that answer of does the trend continue for Mantha? So Mike, you've got 1 to 2 years, which I would kind of say is that's your short term. Then you've got 3 years, 4 years, or 5+. Now, I don't know. Let's talk about what the faithful picked here, the Red Wings Rant faithful. Did I actually put our results? Nope. Cool. I nailed it. The results were 30%, 30.8% went 3 years for Mantha. Definite fence sitters here. Nobody wanted to go short term or long term or really take that stab at long term. And the lowest was short term. It was 1 to 2 years. You had. If you went short term, you had 2 different options that could have been right in 1 year or 2 years, and that had the least amount of votes. So at 19.2%. Second to last was 4 years, but second place, Mike, 5+ years. People want to give Mantha 5 years or more on this upcoming contract, or at least 26.9% of voters said that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 80% of people want him around for the long term. So it was just in what capacity do I want 3 or 4? I don't know about that 4th year, but 3 years for sure. And then there was the 5-year people who were like, 4's not enough. Give us that extra mortgage. This is an interesting one. I think Mantha's case is the most fascinating development as we look at Steve and judge him as a general manager, because we have 2 very important items on Mantha's resume. 1, when he's out there and he's playing, the Red Wings are an electric team that has a lot of pucks going in nets. They actually win games when Mantha plays. They score. They have a legitimate top line that can go up against other teams' top lines. The other point of Mantha's resume is good when he plays. He has a lot of boo-boos. We have him documented. At this point, you can't call him reliable because of how many games he's missed. So when you look at, how do you want to structure your team with Mantha contractually? Why would you do a long-term commitment to a guy who has not proven he can stay on the ice? So it kind of boils down to you either double down and be like, well, at some point he'll figure out how to be healthy, and you sign him to a 5-year deal. What? Or you kind of be like, you got to prove that you're going to be on our team. So we have to responsibly only give you 1 to 2 years. So that's kind of where I would see the seesaw at. Which philosophy do you want to responsibly wait for this guy to prove he can stay on the ice? Or do you look at the production in a small sample size, be like, God damn, we cannot let this guy, leave us, should his body cooperate, with the mind.
Well, Mike, you know what you do?
You do a 4-year deal.
1 year, $15 million. No, I honestly, I can't wait to make that our ad for this episode because people are going to get so angry. They don't do real hockey talk on Red Wings Rant. Oh wait, no, that's our new ad. Me saying that. So I also was a fence sitter, so that's why I brought that up. And I said there's a lot of fence sitters here on the 3 years because you didn't want to necessarily commit too long. You didn't want to do too short and make Anthony Mantha angry. So I went 3 years too. So I was going to make fun of myself. And now I went so long from saying it. I don't know. Anyways, I definitely like if you're talking like the prediction, 3 years is what just pops in your head first. I think short term, I think is what I'd want. I think like seeing Yzerman do this and seeing it be accomplished with the likes of Tyler Bertuzzi and everybody he signed in free agency. I just kind of go, well, just do it for Anthony Mantha too. It's fine. Because like we've talked about so many times on the show, you're gonna have. I guess it depends on the dollar amount, right? If he's willing to sign, like at what if he was willing to go $5 million for 5 years? I would take that. Hell yeah, right? That's super reasonable. That's still under Larkin money. But I mean, if it's something where he wants more than Larkin money, that's where I'm, and that I guess that's kind of where my head would be at. Then I'm going, all right, let's pull back. I'll give you that. I'll give you that over Larkin money, but only for a few years and few 1, 2, or 3. So I think we're going to keep getting the medium to short. So I'm going to say, I like how you put it, that 80% of people were saying not a short-term deal. But I'm gonna hold on to that 1 to 3 years and say I hope it goes in that direction. But you know what? We haven't heard any updates on how these discussions are going, so that could be the hang up. Is they have, they both have a pretty good idea of what this dollar amount should be, and Mantha, as you would, wants to get locked up. I mean, it's two sides, right? You brought up the injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Mantha doesn't want to see the injuries hurt his dollar amount going forward. And the Red Wings don't want to have that dollar amount hurt them because he gets injured. So it's one of those hangups. And like the solution isn't just they're both going to look at each other in the eye and go, let's meet in the middle. No. What's going to happen is, if Yzerman's winning all these negotiations and we keep saying one of them has to not work out, not necessarily like, oh, we don't want Mantha. I think this might be the one where Steve's been trying. Like this is the one we don't have a number on yet. We don't have updates on yet. We don't know when this is going to be solved, because this might be the one that's not going in Steve's favor. This is the one where there's going to be some work to be done. Now, I still say, Mike, best solution. Give him 1 year, whatever money's left on the cap, and we'll roll into the season and we'll figure things out from there. And then handshake agreement. Just tell Mantha, look, we gave you $15 million on this year, so you're signing for $2 million next year. All right, problem solved. I don't know why this GM thing is so hard. Mike,
should we punt the NHL 21 to next week? We're at 48 minutes here.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna miss it. Let me get some video too. So next week we'll talk NHL 21.
And apparently there's a patch I missed. So I need to get the patch and then play it.
We'll take a look. We've got. I'll bring you guys my takes on Be a GM or Be a Pro, which I'm a huge fan of. I got to jump into and get my franchise going because that's my Mike. That I put that as my. That's like reading a book, like a good book to help yourself fall asleep. That's what I do to fall asleep. Like when I'm at my most addicted to a sport game, it's franchise mode, and then I go to bed. But yeah, we'll
proposing trades. That's my favorite thing in the world. Yeah.
But we'll get into that next week because we are running pretty long here. We thought we'd go 20 minutes. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. NHL 21 coming up next week. We'll probably have a pretty lengthy conversation about that, and we'll show you guys some highlights. I figured out how to get all my Mike has seen it. I've been sharing our Call of Duty Warzone wins. It's pretty boring. It's me sitting in a house for 15 minutes and then I run out of the house and win the Warzone. So it won't be that boring for NHL 21. And then, hey, maybe we'll get a Mantha signing in the next week and we can talk about that
immediately after we close this episode out. Yes, probably.
But we'll still get all those hits on YouTube because our title of the episode is Anthony Mantha in it. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great rest of the Sunday. I was going to say weekend, almost done. All right. Bye.